This episode of Warp 5 is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/TrekFM. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the non-profit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join in on the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode or any other, please join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type Babel, that's B-A-B-E-L, into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
Hi, I'm Anthony Montgomery, Ensign Travis Mayweather on Star Trek Enterprise, and you're listening to Trek.fm.
How we doing, Trip? Ready when you are. Prepare for warp.
Course laid in, sir. Request permission to get underway. Let's go.
Welcome, Boomers, to another episode of Warp 5, Trek FM's dedicated podcast to Star Trek Enterprise. I'm your host, Patrick Devlin. Join me always as the amazing Brandon-Shea Mutala. Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing really good. We're protecting the Earth from these evil Xindi, and we're revisiting season 3 of Enterprise one more time, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
We're not going to do any of that Starfleet stuff, right?
No, none of that Starfleet stuff. We're gonna be kicking some ass and taking names.
Nice. I like it.
Yes. And I got a name to take right now. I'm taking Kerry's name down.
Uh-oh.
Kerry Purvis.
Fight! So, Kerry, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to talk season 3 and dance our cares away, go down to Fraggle Rock. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. So for those listeners that don't know, we've had Kerry on twice before. Kerry is a first-time viewer of Star Trek Enterprise, and we've got her on this. She's just recently finished watching season 3 of Star Trek Enterprise, and now called Star Trek Enterprise, right?
Yes.
Yes, actually, officially, Star Trek Enterprise, finally.
Yes.
Yes, in season 3. And so we're just going to have a general discussion and your overview on the season and what you thought. So, Patrick, you want to lead the discussion? I'll pass the reins off to you.
Well, we could have just started with, what is your general discussion on what you thought?
Good choice, Patrick. Good choice.
Well, one question, why did they decide to start calling it Star Trek Enterprise? It was just Enterprise initially, and what do you know why they decided to change that and add Star Trek at the beginning?
Ratings. They didn't think they were getting enough ratings, and they thought it was because people didn't know it was Star Trek.
Yep.
So the reason why they called it Enterprise is because they're like, what word signifies Star Trek more than anything? And they figured it was Enterprise. So that's why they decided to make it another Enterprise. And that's why they called it just Enterprise. And then because season 1 and 2, the ratings weren't so hot, they decided to switch the name in season 3.
You know, people thought it was a show about rental cars.
Oh, right. Yeah, I could see why people wouldn't want to watch that. That's boring. Did the ratings go up when they changed it?
I'm not sure. I'm not all into that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I would doubt it. I would actually doubt it because, unfortunately, what also happened with season 3 is that's when it really became hard to find because it was getting preempted all over the place.
Mm-hmm. And UPN, was that the channel that carried it?
I think so. Yes. See, I can't... I think it was a UPN network that I had it on because, like, at this time I was in Regina and I was watching it live, and we had cable, and, you know, you had to get a cable box. But the thing in Canada is that if a show is airing on the same time on a Canadian channel as it's airing on an American channel, the cable network interrupts the American feed with the Canadian feed to ensure that you see Canadian commercials.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so I think this was happening at the time, so I don't know what the Canadian one would have been, but I could also be wrong as to which, like, I know that Fox did that, because they aired the X-Files on Fox, and I don't know, I think it was CTV or whatever show it ended up being on, But so you would, no matter which channel you recorded it on, CTV or Fox, you would get the CTV feed. And it sucked because sometimes they would switch over late. Like, it wouldn't be right at the right second, and they'd switch over back early at the end. So you'd sometimes miss you wouldn't catch the next time on the next time on X-Files or whatever. So it was a little Canadian CRTC content requirements for all the listeners to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
So
all that to say, I have no idea what channel carried it.
I'm pretty sure it was UPN. It was supposed to be one of their flagship things. That and I think when UPN was coming out, that and wrestling were like their two things to try and drive people to the network. So, but
yes,
yeah.
So, was that during the Monday Night Wars? Anyway, we're getting off track, but yeah.
It was actually as the Monday Night Wars were ending, and WCW was going out of business. Which then helped UPN even more because now there was only one thing to watch on UPN wrestling wise, or one thing to watch on TV wrestling wise.
Right.
So,
yeah, but, that's changing again. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next season when I get to see the Big Show.
Well, it's funny that we bring up wrestling because you said that's changing again because the new company, their vice president, just came out as Captain Picard for his last match. And his wife, well, I guess really Captain Janeway, but a male Janeway. It was he had the Commander's Voyager uniform on, with his wife coming out as 7 of 9.
What is that? AEW?
Yes, Cody Rhodes came out in Star Trek regalia.
Did that? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited! And I have to when we're done, I'm gonna go watch that if I can find it.
Patrick texted me an image. He's like, "This is wrestling." I'm like, "No, it's not. This is Star Trek Voyager."
Mirror Voyager.
Mirror Star Trek Voyager.
Cody turned the logo upside down and put the wings on it, so it looks like his logo.
And has no sleeves. He had no sleeves.
Right, he cut the sleeves off. But DDP had the whole black pants and everything.
Oh my gosh, DDP was there. That's awesome.
Yes, DDP entered the ring with him. It was great.
I love it.
But so anyway, we're not here to talk about wrestling, even though it had a Star Trek twist this Saturday. And that's going to be on TNT, not UPN either.
Yeah.
But so what did you think of season 3 overall?
I liked it. I enjoyed it, and it sounds like it's not one that people like, from what I've been hearing. Is that true?
It's not one that people liked when it aired, and I feel that a lot more people like it now. It was my favorite season of the series.
Mm-hmm. How is it going into it? Because this is the first time that we've had... A lot of people say that Deep Space Nine was serialized in its later years, and it was. They had the overarching story of the Dominion War, but honestly, if you go back and watch, like, they're not really involved in the war that much until near the end. It's really those last 10 episodes of Deep Space Nine that are heavily serialized. Yes. So yes, there's like elements that crop up, but even still, the Dominion War doesn't really get into full swing until the final episode of season 5. Right? But this is a season where they're like, this is our arc, and they did stray on some tangents, but how was it going into that and seeing a season-long arc as a first-time viewer of the show, having such a different flavor from season 1 and 2?
It was really cool. I will say, just with the way the shows were done with the arc, they're looking back over it again. I was reading over some of my notes and reviewing the shows, and it's sometimes hard for me to remember what happened in which show, because it was really done very well. I think the way they had the arc, most of the shows flowed very well, so that made it hard to remember what happened in which show. But overall, it was a very good storyline, I thought, overall.
And what did you think of the Xindi as antagonists for the season?
It was very interesting to see species that are made up of the different, the reptilians and the aquatics, and that was really cool to see. I don't know if I've ever seen that in Star Trek, where you've seen a species that was made up of that many different what's the word I'm looking for? Like different types of species, different types of Xindi. Yeah. So I don't remember seeing that in any other Star Trek series. So I thought that was very cool, and just the dynamics between them, how the aquatics were sort of like the swing vote, I guess you could say, in their group, and how was it the insectoids who were the ones who were trying to take over at the end, or was it the reptilians? I would get the insectoids and the reptilians mixed up.
It was mostly the reptilians. So there was 6 that we saw. There was also the
avians who were extinct,
which we never saw. but so there was the insectoids and the reptilians were basically the bad ones. Then there was the aquatics, the arboreals, See, I have trouble remembering all 6. The aquatics, the arboreals, what are the other 2?
I can't remember. What was Degra?
Degra was
primates, arboreals, reptilians, insectoids, and aquatics. Okay. Then there was a 6th species, which were the avians, but we don't actually physically see a living avian.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So there was a 6th species. So there were 6 of them, not 7.
Okay. Right. And you missed primates.
Mm-hmm.
And primates. Yes. Primates is what Degra was. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Degra
that's right.
and yeah.
Degra
and
was cool. I liked him.
Yeah, so so if you like Degra, what did you think about the arc with him dying, like becoming their friend kind of and helping them and then dying?
That was a bummer. I was sad when he died. I thought, it was very cool how he became their friend. It sort of reminded me of Damar in Deep Space Nine, how I don't think he was their friend exactly, but he started as their enemy, and then in the end they were allies, and I was really sad when Damar died, so I felt the same way with Degra. It was a bummer. When he did die, when they murdered him, I kind of knew that. I'm like, okay, I guess he's going to die now, because it was kind of obvious when that scene started, but it was a bummer. I liked him, though. He was a cool character. The scenes with him and Archer in the shuttle where they fooled him to think that they were in the future, that was a neat twist. I liked that one a lot. That was a memorable episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that one too. They fooled me the first time I watched it. I'm like, I figured it was going to be a time travel episode, right? And then when it turned out they were just faking it, I'm like, oh, that's pretty creative. That's something different. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I liked it too. It fooled me as well.
Which of the 5 Xindi was your favorite then, species-wise?
I liked the aquatics a lot. That was just cool, seeing an underground world in Star Trek. We're used to seeing people in outer space, exploring the stars, and to see them under the water was kind of cool. I liked that. And the reptilians were kind of cool. They reminded me a little bit of the bad guy in Galaxy Quest. Was it Galaxy Quest? Yes, that was the one with Tim Allen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The one I like, Brandon.
Get some of those movies mixed up, but I loved that. When you like,
you weren't going to get that joke, Patrick, for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So in 2 episodes, everyone will understand what that means. Now the reptilians were cool. I'll explain it to you when we get off, Terry. The reptilians were cool. I liked them because they reminded me a lot of like their version of Romulans too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, so
very true.
I like the fact that we had like that Romulan like aspect without having to see the Romulans again. Although
that was cool. Right, we do. Oh, we do. Oh, we will see them later then?
Oh, Patrick, you gonna spoil season 4 for her?
Oh, don't worry. I've now that I've been getting into the show, I've had a lot of spoilers already, so I know. What's Patrick, one more? I'm not surprised though. I think the Romulans are. Sometimes it doesn't seem like Star Trek without the Romulans.
It doesn't, but that's why this was good, because you still had that aspect of them.
Yes,
in a new race. Like they found a way of giving us a new race that would be able to have, so like the aquatics were logical thinkers, like the Vulcans, and the reptilians were like more like the Romulans, and then the arboreals or the primates were more like humans in that, all within one society at that point.
Yeah, that was very neat. I liked that a lot. One of my favorite scenes with the Xindi was when the episode, The Council, when Archer and Hoshi were there and they were talking to them. And as you know, I love Hoshi. She's my favorite. And that was just, I don't know if people really appreciated that scene as far as Hoshi went. And I know it seemed just like she was standing in the background and just reading a machine and translating, but that couldn't have happened without Hoshi. You think about it, really, because she was able to translate what they were saying, and without Hoshi being there, that could have gone very differently. So for me, that was my Hoshi moment, even though it might not seem that exciting.
It also had one of the funniest lines she gives in the whole show when she's like, "You don't want to know what he just said." That's the scene where he's cursing out Archer, and you don't want to know what he just said.
You don't want to know.
That's funny. Excellent. So, what episodes really stuck out to you? Did you have some favorites and maybe even a couple of stinkers?
I did.
There were, yeah. I had some stinkers that were kind of like ones that were so bad they were good. I think Regine was kind of like that, and when I first saw her in her white dress and crazy hair, it reminded me of 80s Madonna.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. And I think it stood out for me with that. Just her outfit was hilarious. And then there, right? That was the Fraggle Rock one. I'm getting all the episodes mixed up now.
Yeah, Fraggle Rock is Extinction.
Yeah. That was
that
funny.
One's not so bad that it's good. It's just terrible.
It is terrible. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it is terrible. But I liked it even though it was terrible. Yeah, it was bad though. I liked Azadi Prime and the episodes that came after that. Most of it, I thought, and that's an example of some of the episodes that blend together for me that I can't really remember what's what, but I liked the action in that. And like at the end of Azadi Prime, when they were flying off and the ship was in bad shape, that was really cool. It was, things picked up then. The storyline picked up and it was intense. And I really liked the way it all flowed together. That was really awesome. And the last episode when Archer was running away from the big fiery explosion, that was like a action movie. Came out like it was like something out of an action movie. That was exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were starting to do more things that were you expect to see on a big screen at this time, which was nice.
That was nice. Yeah. The ending, the last episode, I forgot the name already. Was it 0 Hour? I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The ending to that was, I have interesting opinions on that. I think it was a little hard to see the ending where they had, they went back and they had the Nazis as the storyline. And I probably would have felt differently seeing it 10 years ago or when it first aired, but that's something that's actually very close to home now, I think, after Charlottesville, some of the other things that are going on in the world. And it really made me think about how in Hollywood and just in film, how there's the Nazi trope. And I think that people, there's this urge to like, oh, they're bad, so let's go punch them and everyone will be happy. But I think something gets lost with that a little bit. I think there's a danger in that when you see people expressing that level of hate in real life, sometimes that can, because of the media, it can take away, make it harder to spot it happening in real life, I guess. I don't know if this is making sense, but...
No, it does. Like, when you get to our retrospective on Season 4, when you listen along, like, I'm not a fan. So how this ends, and then the next 2 episodes in Season 4, the first 2 episodes follow up on this and finish this story off. And I'm not a big fan of those 2 episodes. I don't like them very much. But you're right. We do talk about in that episode, we're like, what is it with Hollywood and Nazis? Like, why do they keep going back to Nazis, And I don't know. So it is kind of interesting. And you may, when you get to that 2-parter, I'll spoil a little something on it. But there's a tweet that went around over the last year or two, because there's a shot of the White House with like tanks in front of it and Nazi flags.
Oh boy.
Right? And so people have screenshotted that and tweeted it, and like for like times that are right now, and they're like, oh boy, Star Trek was really quite able to predict the future, weren't they?
Oh boy. Yeah. And that and the Bell riots.
Yeah, and what you were saying though, I mean, look, it does. It somewhat desensitizes the word Nazis.
Yes.
Just using that trope in TV all the time. Now you say, well, those people are a bunch of Nazis. People use that term for everything.
They do.
Now, it's not just for people who are actually Nazis or believe Nazi philosophies.
Well, I blame Seinfeld for that, honestly.
Well,
like, you may think that's a joke,
yeah.
But I kind of blame Seinfeld for that. So
it's not just their fault. It's all of TV, though. We've used it for so many things now that it's just become another word that doesn't really mean Nazi anymore. Like when someone corrects someone on Facebook for their grammar, they're a grammar Nazi. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. it is
The
ridiculous.
word doesn't mean what it used to mean.
No, and then when you try and use it to mean that, a lot of people just ignore it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so I didn't really like that twist. I will say that I scare easily, so when I was watching it, the different people were, the officers were all coming and looking at Archer, and then, Mr. Satan Alien comes out, and I screamed kind of loudly because it startled me. But I'm sure most
Okay,
people
so
didn't
let me
have
ask
that
you.
reaction.
Let me ask you that question. So when you first saw that, as a first-time viewer now, like, have you seen all of the rest of Star Trek?
Most of it. I haven't finished Voyager yet. I haven't seen the second season of Discovery. I've seen most of it.
Okay.
I've seen
So
most of it.
when you saw that alien, what did you think of the alien? I don't want to guide you to the answer, but was there anything familiar about the alien to you?
He just freaked me out. So maybe he must be related to some other alien in the series, I'm guessing.
No, he's not, and that's the thing, right? So when I first saw it and first watched it, this was shortly after Star Trek Nemesis came out. So I'm like, I thought it was a Riemann, right? So I was wondering if you thought that too, but it turns out that they're not. So I was just wondering if you thought that as well. So, but
No,
that's fine.
I have seen Nemesis, but it's been a long time, and I didn't really care for that movie. So, I don't. That was a weird movie. I've seen it twice, and I really could not tell you what happened in it. It just, I don't know.
A bunch of really bad stuff and some great music.
You're not the only
Right,
person to
great
feel the way
music.
you feel.
Yeah, so I've heard. Oh man, what else to talk about? Trip and T'Pol in this season, they finally get together. And Brandon, I've listened to some other interviews with you about how they're the only couple that you shipped.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Do they work for you?
Well, I think they're a great couple, but I don't like it when they bring people together initially by showing that they have tension with each other. And it's just so obvious, I think. So I felt like it was a little forced the way they were brought together. But then once they came together, I thought it worked.
What'd you think of the massage?
But they both seemed happy.
There's an ugh.
The Vulcan neural pressure.
Yeah, that's that it felt forced with that too. Like, let's get them together. We'll have tension, and then they'll go give each other massages, and then Paul will take off her clothes, and they'll get together. And
See, none of that bothered me, except that I had to sit there and watch that with my 70-something-year-old grandmother, and that was just creepy.
Sure, that was awkward.
I would
Did she
just
say
get up.
anything?
No, what are you gonna say? Like, you just kind of both stand there staring at the TV, like, I hope this ends soon. I hope this ends soon. And
Yeah,
then,
I'm
like,
gonna go get some water.
that's exactly what I did. I would walk into, like, from where I was sitting, where we would watch the show, because at the time I was living at my mom's house. I was younger. I was like 19 when this show came out, so I was watching it first runs. So I was probably 20 or whatever. I was still in college. But we would watch. I lived in my mom's house in the basement. My grandmother ended up moving in with us in the basement as well. So we had our own living room. It was like a whole apartment down there. So I would just get up. You'd walk 10 steps forward, make a left, 10 steps into the kitchen, and I'd wait to hear someone talk that wasn't one of them to it before I came back.
So you missed a lot of season 3.
Yeah. Yes.
Bummer. I could see why that would be awkward.
Very.
So, Kerry, I guess the big next question that we have for you then is, what did you think of Archer's arc over the season from, how far he took things? Like, this is kind of a different captain than we've seen out of him before, right? I think it's the second or third episode of the season, he's torturing that guy with the pressure, and then, near the end of the series, he steals that and leaves that one ship adrift.
Yeah.
He steals that part from them. What did you think of Archer in this season?
He definitely went in a different direction, I think. There was a lot of pressure on him with the war, and I think that could have played a role. But yeah, he really became much more intense and much more cutthroat, I guess. Maybe that's the right word. Just, yeah, much more intense and more, like you were talking about, like stealing that ship and much more ruthless, I guess. He definitely a change. There was definitely a change there. There was one episode where he talked about too many people dying and how he wanted to go off and be the hero. Do you know what I'm talking about? I can't remember.
Is that the one where he went down onto the planet into the water?
Yes, yeah.
I don't remember what the name of the episode is either, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he had kind of a Kirk feeling to him then. I think there were some Kirk parallels I saw.
I think that was Azadi Prime, that episode.
Oh, you're right. Azadi Prime. Yes. I say I love that episode, but I don't remember all of the elements of it. But yes, that's right. That's the one where I tweeted about the Little Mermaid and them being in under the sea with Little Mermaid and King Triton. Yes. Yeah. Archer, he definitely he's been on a journey in this show, I think. I think he's a little more jaded now, for sure, after all that he's seen.
Yeah, if you listen to the retrospectives, you'll hear me begging for him to murder somebody early.
Yes, I did listen to those. Yes. Now, do you think that was in his nature initially, or do you think that's something that changed as he went along and got more involved in the war and saw what he saw?
I think seeing Trip go through what he went through and knowing what happened to Earth pushed him to that. I think he was very hopeful and, exploratory, like the whole beginning of the show was, the first 2 seasons were. I think he embodied that, but then, when the terrorist attack happened, it pushed him over the edge, which I lived in New York, and I know a lot of people who that happened to.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. I was going to school about an hour and a half out of DC, and I know a lot of people and a lot of my classmates were from the New York area, and I know people who lost people in the attacks, and it really pushed a lot of them too, and affected them. I think it changed a lot of people. Yeah,
well, New York was shut down for days after 9/11, and the first day it was open things started opening up after 9/11 happened. The first thing I did was walk into the Army Recruiting Center myself. So even I changed. So I saw that in Archer, the same kind of thing happening.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Definitely. Yeah, that I think trauma like that can really change you for sure.
Kerry, I'm going to recommend that you go back and listen to episode 129 of Warp 5.
Okay.
It was the last episode that I did with Floyd, and we actually did an interview with Phyllis Strong, who was one of the writers for Damage, which was the episode where Archer stole that part and left the ship. So it's a really great interview. Almost 2 years ago now. It was January of 2018 that it was released, that episode. But we had a great discussion with Phyllis Strong about writing that episode, and I would definitely recommend that episode.
Yeah, I'll check it out. That's awesome. Very cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the season as a whole then, so was there any other, you talked about Hoshi a bit, was there any other favorite character moments that you saw?
I liked Hayes a lot, and I was actually really bummed out when he died. It seemed kind of predictable that he had to die so they could so Malcolm could go and give a stirring speech. I guess that was one thing I didn't like, but I liked Hayes, and I liked that he and Malcolm finally were on the same page and were friends. So I liked that, and I wish I could have seen more of Travis. That would have been good. I liked seeing Trip's journey from grief into healing. That was important, I think. And I think it was probably important for a lot of the viewers back then, because a lot of people were grieving because of 9/11. So I thought that was important to see.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think people missed that when watching it on first runs, though.
Yeah,
I don't think people were ready for the message in general, and
no, probably not.
So I think a lot of us missed it when it aired originally, but you're right. It would have been a good message for a lot of the people that were going through something at the time. Did you find it as jarring as others did that all of a sudden now you have all these deaths, where the first 2 seasons you had none?
I thought it was unusual, and I think I saw an interview with Brandon Braga or someone where they were talking about how it was a little strange that they didn't have any deaths until the 3rd season, and it wasn't jarring for me, but it didn't really make sense either. They're out there, some of the first explorers in space, and out going out at warp, first warp ship, I think, going to warp 5. I might be completely wrong with this. I apologize. Is that correct? The first ship out there going
Warp
that
5
fast?
they are.
Warp 5, yeah. So they're going places that people haven't gone before, and they're the first ones doing this. And it doesn't really make sense to me that people didn't die until the 3rd season. Usually when you're exploring a new frontier, you have people who die a little sooner. At least that's what I've read historically. So it was strange that it went from no death to lots of death.
Well, you took some notes. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on yet that you'd like to address for the season itself?
I liked Impulse a lot. I know people have mixed feelings about that, but I enjoyed the Vulcan zombies. I thought that was very cool. I think I screamed at the end of that one too when the Vulcan was in was into Paul's face in sick bay. That was pretty classic. And Similitude. We should probably go ahead.
Oh, we'll touch on that one. But what did you think of the drug addiction thread that came later?
I'm still trying to decide how I feel about that. I'm not sure if it's a good representation of what an addiction struggle looks like, but it was an interesting twist. So I'm interested to see where it goes in season 4.
And Similitude?
It's Similitude, yes, Similitude. I think Brandon and we kind of talked about it a little bit on Twitter. I did not like that episode, but I thought more about it, and what I didn't like about it was just I thought it bothered me when they decided, okay, we're going to create this clone, and then we're going to kill him. And I was fine with it until the clone was a baby, and Phlox is like, oh, let's pick him up and cuddle him, and we'll feed him, and then we'll kill him later. And I kind of had a hard time with that. But it made me think about the TNG episode Descent, where Picard and Riker are talking about their decision to let Hugh go. And Picard said, perhaps the moral thing to do is not the right thing to do. And I think that kind of applies here. I didn't think that what they did to Sim was the moral thing to do, but I do think in order for them to save Trip and continue with their mission, I did think it was the right thing to do. So, yeah.
That's an interesting point that you brought up. That I forgot about that line of Descent. You know, that's a good callback to that one line.
Yeah, I didn't think of it either until you just said it now. I mean, they did make it a little easier in that Sim agreed to it in the episode.
That did make it easier.
But so I when we talked about that episode, I actually said I wish they wouldn't have done that because it would have made the moral implications that much stronger. Mm-hmm. You know, but they ended up making him say yes, so then it really doesn't matter what any of us think.
Right, and when we did our commentary a little while ago, like I said as well, they pulled the punch because with having Sim have a shortened lifespan of just a couple weeks, he's gonna die no matter what right away. Had they made it so that he would have grown up to be the same age and then lived out a normal life, then it's more difficult a decision. But the fact that he's gonna die anyways, then what's the matter if he dies today or tomorrow? It doesn't matter.
Right. He was going to die really soon either way.
Right.
Which makes it a lot easier morally to justify.
That's certainly true. I agree.
You know, like, and Brandon's right, because if he was going to live another 40 years, 50 years, it's a lot harder than next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read a book recently for a book group that I didn't finish actually, but it's called Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, and it's about something similar where there are these teenagers who they realize that they exist for people to harvest their organs later in life, and this made me think about that a little bit. Mm-hmm. They might have made a film adaptation of it, I'm not sure.
Interesting.
I haven't heard of that, no.
Yeah. The book was actually, I didn't finish it, like I said, but it was good, and it's something I've been planning to pick back up again. So, is
it older or newer?
It's not, I think it was in the last 10, 15 years. I could be wrong, but it wasn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Excellent. Right on. Well, is there anything else that we haven't touched on yet that you want to talk about? I know you'd mentioned you want to talk about Extinction. I don't know if we've covered that enough for you or not, but...
Well, yeah, I thought it was, I listened to your comparison to the next gen episode. I don't remember the name of that episode now. The one where Geordi was transformed.
Identity Crisis.
I thought of that immediately when I saw it. And that was a ridiculous episode too.
Oh, I love Identity Crisis way more than I love.
Oh yeah, so do I.
Yeah. Oh, I like it, but yeah, it's just silly, I think.
Brandon, were you on the episode?
No, I missed that one.
Yeah, me and Brandy actually did a comparison between the two episodes. So because I hate that episode so much, they made sure I watched it like 8,000 times.
Oh, no.
In the year I was here, we did commentaries on it, we did retrospectives on it, we did comparisons with it. But this actually came from a listener. A listener came up with the idea to watch certain episodes that were similar, and that was one of them. And so we did those two, and I like the TNG one a lot. I hate this one. Basically, it was like two stories. One that did everything right with that kind of story, and one that did everything wrong with that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say that I feel like Scott Bakula and Linda Park and, oh my gosh, who plays Malcolm? Help. Forget his right name now. But I feel like it was well acted on their part. Like, they had some really neat mannerisms and movement. So I liked that aspect of it. But yeah, the guy, the character who was on the other ship and telling them that he needed to eradicate them, he looked like he belonged in the Avengers or something. I thought he was cool. But yeah, overall it was, not a great episode.
That's one way to put it.
Awesome. Kerry, I'm so looking forward to watching your tweets for season 4, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun when you get there. I think you're going to enjoy season 4.
I'm excited.
Yeah, but you've only got 22 episodes left.
Something like that. Yeah,
I'm
kind of dreading the series finale. I've heard lots of not good things, so that should be interesting.
Yeah.
We'll let you find out for yourself.
Yeah, I'll let everyone know. I'm sure I'll have a strong opinion one way or the other.
Excellent, right on. Well, Kerry, where can people find you when you're not punching Nazis and making the world a better place?
You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is KerRBearLib. It's KerRBear Lib LIB. And I also have a Spanish account that I don't use very often, but it's Kerry Trek or Kari Trek. It's KARITREK.
Excellent, right on. Well, talking about Kerry's first time viewing of Season 3 of Star Trek Enterprise is not all we've been discussing here on the network, so please take a quick listen to this clip to see what else you may have missed elsewhere on Trek.fm.
Previously on Trek.fm, Earl Grey.
Okay, that's excellent. And it'll be interesting to see how we interpreted the topic, because I know I may have interpreted it maybe a little differently than others did. We'll see.
Is this another time travel thing?
No, I was going to say no time travel for me as long as Jellicoe doesn't come into this.
Sure. Okay, so we'll make that deal then. Awesome. I'm in.
All right.
Literary Treks.
And, the stakes are really big. We'll get there, but, this Borg ship threatens Earth and all this kind of stuff. And it just feels like it's a lot of really comic booky, over-the-top stuff that doesn't quite fit right with the novel that came before it and the novel that came after it, if that makes sense.
Primitive Culture. A look at history and culture through Star Trek.
And Next Gen arriving was this sort of, wow, this looks incredible. I know when we look at sort of first season Next Gen now, what we're going is, wow, this is really slow and stagey. But in fact, it was incredible. It was absolutely game-changing.
The Edge, a Star Trek Discovery podcast.
Only because I was watching little bits of Emissary recently, is that he would see himself wearing that awful purple swimsuit and think, oh God, I can't wear that.
Oh my gosh.
Every time I see it, I'm like, whoa, I'm really glad I'm not wearing 24th century clothing.
If you wanted me to murder an entire society, fine. But I'm not wearing that bathing suit.
too revealing.
That's where I draw the line.
That's funny.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
Check out all these shows and join the conversation about your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe and beyond. You'll find us wherever you get your podcast. If you're an Apple user, be sure to hit the subscribe button in Apple Podcasts on iPhone, iPad, or Apple TV, or the desktop iTunes app to get the latest episodes as soon as they are published. And please leave us a star rating and written review. If you're not an Apple user, we've got you covered as well. You can find our shows on Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, and most third-party apps, and you can stream and download the MP3 file from our website or grab the RSS link.
I just gave us a 1-star review because you're my co-host.
Wow, that was tough. It's really rough.
I'm hard to please. I don't know what's my line.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and there are many ways for you to do that.
You'd think after 183 episodes of Warp 5, you'd have known what that line was by now.
The best place to join in the larger conversation is the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type Babel. Babel.
Light a match and set it on fire!
Babel into the search field on Facebook, and it should come right up. I almost said Bieber. If you'd like to send us an email, you better leave all this in, too.
I am.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can use the form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and select Warp 5. That will come right to us. You can also find the network on Twitter at Trek.fm and on Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM. Patrick, where can people find you when you're not torturing people, stealing their belongings, and leaving them out to die?
When I'm not doing those things, you can find me on Twitter, probably tweeting about doing those things, at MagicDrop5. There's no spaces, and the 5 is a digit. You can also find me popping up in the Babel Conference, which I don't know what that is, but I might be there. I might just pop in once in a while. Fun. And you can find me here on the network with my good friend Amy Nelson. The last place you'll be able to find me is over on the United Federation of Podcast Network, where I will be hosting with one of our associate producers, Chris Trabuzio, a Mickey's Marvels, which will be deep dives into Disney movies, and it will also be covering some of the stuff, not all, because they're dumping so much stuff onto the Disney Plus network, but some of the stuff that will be coming out brand new on the Disney Plus network. Most notably, you'll probably be guesting a lot on The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
I think it will be, too. We'll see.
Where I can, turn your ass in for a bounty.
Something like that.
Have you ever had a bounty? Those, coconut chocolate bars?
No. I don't. Do they have?
They're, coconut covered in
I don't
chocolate.
like coconut.
Oh, they're so good. You're a coconut.
I put the lime in the coconut.
Do you drink them both together?
Mix them all up.
Do you feel better?
I do.
Oh, nice.
Especially when there's rum. So anyway, those are the places you can find me. And the Insane Asylum. So, Brandon, where can people find you when you're not getting worse and worse, but through the season trying to beat people up and steal stuff?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Mutala. You can find me here on the network with The Line, which is all about the upcoming Star Trek Picard show. And you can find me over on the Fandom Podcast Network, as well as in our own feed with Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast. My friends Chris and Tom, we cover Hitchcock films once a month over there. And you can find my friend Zach and I over on the UFP network with a show called Franchise Fatigue, which is all about movies and sequels and remakes. And currently we're going over the Terminator films leading up to Terminator Dark Fate. I'm very excited because that movie's coming out very soon. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. You seen the trailer for that yet?
I have not.
It looks good. I think it looks really
You're
good.
like the second person to mention it today. So I'm definitely going to have to check this out.
Oh, man, you'll love it. It's the greatest trailer ever. It's almost as good a trailer as Spaceballs is a movie.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me every line of the trailer before I see it?
Somebody says, I'll be back.
Okay, folks, I might hate this. So, anywho, Now I don't remember my line.
If you'd like to help us
Yeah,
keep
that
all
one.
our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/TrekFM. That's PATRICKDEVLINON.com.
What?
I just spelt your name. You didn't even
I
notice?
did, but why?
I don't know. Patreon.com/TrekFM to get all the details. Perks include early access to episodes, exclusive content.
What is going on here?
Producer credit, and more available through our special patrons website, Patron Zone. It requires a great deal of money to produce, host, and distribute these shows each month. We really appreciate any support.
Worst episode we've had so
hope you'll
far.
join the team. Again, you'll find all the details at patreon.com/TrekFM.
I don't have the list of Patreon, the associate producers.
At this time, we'd like to thank our wonderful associate producers, Norman C. Lau, Floyd Dorsey, Mike Morrison, Tim Cooper, Justin Ozer, Mark Flessa, Chris Chibuzio, and Jim McMahon. Thank you so much for supporting Warp 5 and Trek FM as well. We really couldn't do it without you.
Well, that's all we have for you this week. And remember, don't be afraid of the wind.